Okay, so look, one of the things that you're going to want to do most frequently with this tool, with NetSupport School, is viewing your student screens. Let's face it, you want to be making sure that they're cracking on and doing the things you want them to be cracking on and doing. And that's where NetSupport School really does come into its own. Obviously, there's the ability to do lots of things to help shepherd your students down the right path by using some of the application controls, some of the web controls to make sure they only use certain websites or certain tools, the things you want them to use. But the reality is you want to be able to, A, see what they're doing, okay, and then B, support them while they're doing the things that you want them to be doing. So we've got Bob Smith working on his presentation on his device at the moment. We can see there's two slides there. This is Bob Smith just here, and what I can do is I can just zoom in a bit so I can see the screen a bit more clearly just over here. Okay. And in this view, it's nice things, what's happening here. And as if I move my mouse up a second, as Bob's doing different things on his device, moving from one sort of slide to the next on his device, so I can see that transition, those things happening and those things changing on the screens. If I just, start changing a few things over here, you can see what's happening on there. Okay, so what's really, really useful is that not only can I see that in the thumbnail, chances are as well that probably, if you're not going to have two students, so you're going to be seeing it quite small if you've got a whole group of them. You can see things are happening, but what you can do is you can actually dive into a student's screen and actually see it full screen. And to do that is super, super easy. The quickest way, the way I've always done this, is to just simply double click on the icon that you can see here. You can do it in other views. If you're seeing just the avatar, you can double click and still jump straight into the view. You can right click and go view client and do that sort of thing. And whilst I'm here, there are other ways you can interact. So let's say, Bob has clearly not got the name photosynthesis correct here. We can just go a bit closer. Okay, so if I've noticed that Bob isn't doing something quite right here, I could sort of, call out across the classroom, Bob, have you thought about, and then giving Bob that feedback. It might be, though, that you're working to rules where at certain times when your students are focused, it's a silent room while they're focusing on their work. So we can do things such as go into the chat and I can start a chat conversation. I could just message and send a message that says to Bob, hey Bob, have you thought about this, that, or the other, whatever it is. You can choose these options so you can have those means of communication and choose which one sort of suits you best when you come to do that. But the ability to view a student screen is super useful, and there's a variety of ways you can do it. Let's just recap. You can double click and it will bring that up. Alternatively, you can right click and go to view client. And remember, depending on which view you're in, doesn't really matter too much. Let's just jump into this view, for example. I can still just double click onto here and still get through. And the same is true in other views. And whilst we're here, it's important to notice and note the things you can do once you're viewing a student's screen as well. So what I can do is I can just share. Okay, so we can both use the mouse and keyboard at the same time. I can make it so I'm just actually watching it, or it could be that I want to control that device entirely. So, Bob can be, trying to do things on his device right now. He can't do anything now because I've got full control of that device. What I can also do is, working across the toolbar here, then so I've got some other options. I can optimize for color depth and speed or for quality. I can send Control Alt and Delete to the client, which can be useful for logging students off or a variety of other reasons. I can just blank their screen rather than locking it. Sometimes when a student is maybe not doing quite the right thing, okay, we might want to get some evidence of that, so we can always take a screenshot by clicking onto here. If you click on a drop down, then we can open a folder where we can find those screenshots as well. If it really is needed, I can just log out Bob, I can reboot their device, I can scale to fit, I can go full screen, and I can fiddle around with different aspect ratios, go to different scrapes and various compatibility modes. I can sort of show or hide the navigation window. I can send things from the clipboard, retrieve things. I can turn it on so it automatically sends and receives clipboard contents. If we're working with a copy and paste thing. We can add some quick launch options in here and add some more things into there if we want it as well. Bear in mind as well that we've got other options on, because this is a ribbon interface rather than a menu interface or a standard toolbar. So we go to tools. We've got things for file transfer and chat and annotations as well, which is really useful. So I can just go on to annotate, and then from the annotation tool here, I can then do things with files and pens and shapes and colors and fonts and all this sort of stuff directly on the pupil device, student device. Click back onto there, and that will turn the annotation feature off. And the final tab here brings up the final ribbon is to do with communication with the pupil. So it could be that you've got people in a room and they're wearing headphones and working in that sort of way, so you can have a variety of conversations. And this is also useful when you've got a setup where people are in different rooms, so you can or in different locations, so you can have a variety of sort of conversations using the audio feature there whilst you're connected with the student or the pupil. Bear in mind you've still got some persistent things as well: muting, locking, internet, all these shortcuts and things persist at the top here, as you see in your main window behind just over here. To come out of this view where you're sort of diving onto a student screen, simply close the window and you're back where you were originally inside NetSupport School. My favourite view, and we'll dive into the different views you've got in a few moments, but my favourite one, again, because most of the time what you can want to be doing is actually monitoring what students are doing in the classroom, is this view here where you can see the thumbnails so you can see what's going on. So that is how you view a student screen in NetSupport School. So I wanted to talk now about the keyboard monitoring feature that's built into NetSupport School. Now, this isn't to be confused with any kind of safeguarding software that tracks keywords and these sorts of things. We do have these sorts of products. In fact, you may well have NetSupport DNA, a world-class, award-winning product, which has safeguarding keyword tracking built right into it. This isn't about that. Okay, this is about a tracking tool that checks for keywords that young people are typing in using their devices that are linked to the learning activities in your classroom. Quite nifty, hey? You know, in many classes, we will want children to reference keywords in many lessons. In this lesson here now around photosynthesis, it may well be that we want children to be using words like photosynthesis and spelling it correctly. Things like chlorophyll, the sun, carbon dioxide, green, these sorts of things, oxygen, what have you. So we can add those things in. We can also add in then some inappropriate words. It could be words like chlorophyll but spelt incorrectly, okay, which can then be tracked and flagged and things. Okay, commonly spelt with an F-I-L-L on the end rather than the P-H-Y-L-L. So how do we get all this sort of stuff set up, and how can we make it help us with our learning, and how can we then sort of celebrate good work and what have you with your children in your classroom? Well, it's baked right into this section here with the A that you can see, the monitoring real-time keyboard input section just here. So we click onto there and we can see there's some things been happening on this keyboard already. Let's just clear that and start from scratch. So as with all of these options here, we keep a lot of the standard icons on the ribbon straight away, but on the right hand side we've got some options linked to this keyboard checking. So we can monitor activity. Okay, it's currently turned on. There's no text in there at the moment. I've just cleared that text. We can view the history of things that have been typed previously. We can obfuscate inappropriate words so we don't have to see those, although in this example you might want to see it so you can see where things have gone wrong. Either which way, they're flagged by the cumulative total here in these two columns here. We can also, if you want to, save and load previous word lists or create word lists linked to learning activities if you want to here. But it's easy to do on the fly. Okay, so you can just go to the plus button here and then type in the words that you want. So I've done that already. I put chlorophyll with the incorrect spelling just there. To do this, we simply click on the plus button just here. If you have got lots of students as well, if you want a bit more real estate, nice little features, you can just sort of hide that away. If you want to bring it back, you can bring it back like so. So we've got these words in here that we actually want. So let's see what happens when we actually type in the correct words on a child's device. So I'm just going to move over to this device here. I'm going to start typing a few of these correct words, and we can see what happens. Just look around this area just here. So if I just type in, let's say, carbon dioxide is something which is used by the plant chlorophyll is important. You can see as I'm starting to put in these important words and they're part of this, they're highlighted. You can see where there's been mistakes and I've sort of pressed a backspace and fixed spellings and what have you. But we can see that the target words are appearing as a total here. Now look what happens if I type an inappropriate word. So I'm just going to put in the incorrect spelling of chlorophyll. So there it is. And just going to press space to move it forwards, and so you can see the ragging, the colouring here of these words there. So, not a safeguarding feature, but really useful in helping you keep a track on. When you've got a lot of children in your class, I don't clearly in my example class here, but when you have lots of children in your class, it's a really nice way of taking the temperature of learning without having to go through and check all of your pupils' work. Obviously, you can see it while they're typing. You can then go and jump into their history and see all the different things. So I just choose Bob here, for example, and go to history. You can see all the things that have been sort of typed into here and what tools he's been using and all these different things. Okay, so really helpful, really useful little feature. Often not thought of, but really nice here inside NetSupport School.